Hello, and welcome back to Biodiversity Impact, a podcast exploring the journeys of scientists, sustainability experts, entrepreneurs, creators, and others who are working towards a more nature-positive future for people, planet, and profit. I'm your host, Bez, and today I'm very excited to be outside of the podcast studio in a very special place indeed. We're currently at Danum Valley, a conservation area and field station surrounded by primary pristine tropical rainforest in Sabah, Malaysian Borneo. You might be hearing some cicadas and frogs and birds in the background during this interview. And today I'll be interviewing Dr. Anna Goldman. Anna is a lifelong naturalist and biodiversity scientist who believes in hands-on education and field-based learning. She's currently the lead Natural History Museum curator at California Polytechnic University in Humboldt, USA. Hello, Anna. Welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
I am lovely. A little sweaty, but enjoying myself. Loving sitting here with you.
So let's get started. I'm really curious to find out, what do you do as a naturalist and a biodiversity scientist? And can you tell us a bit about your background and what brought you into this field?
Yeah. As a naturalist and biodiversity scientist, I would say my number one goal is to inspire people in ways that they wouldn't have otherwise known they could be inspired. So part of my job as a museum curator is to prepare dead animals for a museum collection and also put those dead animals through a colony of flesh-eating beetles. And I think it's really important for people to get excited about that without being grossed out. So I like to take the less common and less exciting on the surface and kind of delve deeper into what makes things work. Looking at anatomy and physiology of each individual specimen that I handle. And if I have abnormalities and parasites, I love to share that with the students. And yeah, I think just allowing people to open their eyes and see more of the beauty of science in our everyday lives.
It's really fascinating and really important what you do. Are there any examples you can give of when you have demonstrated this to students?
Oh, absolutely. Up in Northern California, we have river otters, and they frequently, especially during mating season, they cross one of the main highways, Highway 101, and they get hit by cars. And nobody likes to hear this, and it's a very sad story. However, when I get my hands on these roadkill river otters, it's an excellent learning opportunity. I tend to get as many students as I can, and I do a necropsy. Oftentimes, they can be in quite bad shape, but we can look at the physiology and how it changes after it's been hit by a car, which is quite impactful. But we can also look at gross anatomy, such as their kidneys are lobulated. Mm-hmm. So instead of looking at their kidneys and you see something like a kidney bean, you see something that looks more like a cluster of grapes.
Okay.
And that's their kidney. That's a mammal that has funny looking kidneys, and it's absolutely amazing. So I really like to share those special traits, because then I think people can see beyond the blood, beyond the smell, and they kind of go into his different youthful place, and they get really excited. I think when we're all young, we get curious about all sorts of things, and something about society kind of tells us that, oh, bugs are gross, and blood is nasty, and don't do that. But I think the more we get out there and get our hands dirty, and this also includes doing field work in the jungle where we are now, it teaches us to appreciate and see more.
Oh, Anna, your passion is infectious, and I just want to personally thank you for your enthusiasm as an educator, because that is the first step in attracting the interest and attention of the next generation of really curious scientists. So, yeah, thank you for
Absolutely,
your incredible
absolutely.
skills in communicating the exciting and also scientific importance of biodiversity, anatomy, and physiology.
Yeah, and I kind of specialize in insects and mammals, and I'm starting to specialize in birds. And if anybody's listening from Cal Poly in California, I am not saying that I know birds very well at all. But it's a new venture that I'm taking, and I feel like I'm quite good with identifying insects and mammals. And like you can continue to learn, and it's an uncomfortable process that I feel that the more you put yourself in, the better you are at it. Mm-hmm. And I think part of that is also science communication. Mm-hmm. So being able to discuss with anybody the work that you do in a way that everybody can understand and get excited about is something that I identified as a strength of mine very early on. So mm-hmm. I know I'm not a very technical speaker, but I am an enthusiastic one because I absolutely love what I do, and I can get dozens of chipmunks in every single day, and I still get excited to see them mm-hmm. because they're just amazing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I would say you're both engaging and technically accurate, so...
Thank you.
Yeah. So was there a moment in your life where you decided, or was it from a very young age that you thought that yes, nature and biodiversity and the environment is something I'm curious about exploring further?
I think I was always interested in, I always had dirty hands as a kid. Mm-hmm. I was always interested in the things that move in the soil, mm-hmm. and if I would find anything, in the woods, I found a deer leg. And I was probably 8 or 9 years old, and I brought it in for show and tell, and it was like a furry, decomposing, smelly deer leg. And the principal definitely called my mother. Luckily, my mother understood my curiosity, and that just kind of sparked this interest in the things that are outside of our houses. And I went to summer camp where it was away. I was gone for a month at a time. And I discovered mosquitoes. And I remember being outside early in the morning, and we were by this huge freshwater lake, and it was just mosquitoes central. But instead of being annoyed by these mosquitoes, I tried to identify the different species, and even within the different species, there were different feeding techniques and different, some were more bold, some would hover for a while, and I remember just kind of holding them on my arm and watching them feed and kind of dissecting them with my fingers to kind of understand the proboscis. And I didn't know what species I was looking at, but I knew I was looking at a handful.
Yes.
And then and there, I knew that there was so much more mm-hmm. to the world, to life, to everything. Mm-hmm. And that's what really kind of got me in. And everybody kind of always said, you can't get a job in this. You can't do this for work, mm-hmm. or you're going to have to go into agriculture pest control yes. if you want to look at bugs. And it's
That's exactly what I was told as well.
Exactly, right? How discouraging. So I think it's been a fight the entire time. Yeah. And it still is, to be mm-hmm. honest, to mm-hmm. prove to people that what we do and what we're curious about is actually important in the bigger scale of things.
Yeah. Humans, we're a part of nature and we depend on nature.
Absolutely. And how everything interacts with us, yeah. and we interact with everything, yes. right? Yes. We are a human ecology.
Yes. So, Anna, working as a biodiversity scientist can be both inspiring and demanding. What keeps you motivated in this space?
It's really, it's not that difficult to stay motivated when you can have a job that every day is different. So some days I have to go in and database all day. Mm-hmm. But there's something really pleasurable in the monotony, in the, like, getting things organized and done. Then, sometimes I get a phone call that there's a dead gray whale, and I've got to put my sunblock on and go to the beach for 6 hours while we do a necropsy on this gray whale. Or maybe there's a fatality at the zoo. Or maybe the California condor conservation program needs spare food, so I have to go into my freezer and see what I don't need. Like, it's different every day. And even my flesh-eating beetles give me curveballs sometimes, Sometimes there's a bunch of spiders in there trying to sabotage their job, and I have to go in there and remove those spiders.
So can you tell us a bit more about these flesh-eating beetles?
Of
Why
course.
do you use flesh-eating beetles?
Okay, so when you prepare an animal for a museum collection, you don't want any of the things that will rot on that specimen. So when it comes to mammals, you're going to want to remove that whole torso carcass underneath the skin. We basically take their clothes off. And what we do with the skin is we stuff it with cotton and then we lay it flat in a drawer. But for the skeleton, we can't really pick them by hand. There's another method of maceration where you can put it in water and basically have it mold and gross.
That sounds like a smelly method.
Absolutely, but it's an easy method. But you also have this option to run them through a colony of flesh-eating beetles, which are typically Dermestid maculatus. Dermestid beetles are flesh-eating beetles. They only eat dead flesh, so I have no concern about them coming after me. I never have nightmares. And they do an absolutely fantastic job. You have a colony, and there's generations of these dermestid beetles. So you have tiny little larvae, you have large larvae, you have adults, and basically they all eat this dead flesh. So you have something that goes into the brain cavity and eats the brain. You have something that is a heavier chewer and will eat the pectorals. They really do the best job possible.
Wow.
You can often hear them snacking, and when they're really active, you can actually feel heat being radiated off of them because they're such productive workers. It does take a little animal husbandry to finesse the colony. Sometimes they need a little bit of water. Sometimes they want to eat less. Sometimes they want to eat a little more. And you have to be careful and you have to time just right when you remove the skeleton. Otherwise, everything will become disarticulated and you just have this like tray of random bones.
Okay, so you need to time it right to have it intact.
And you have to kind of sing to them in the morning because they really appreciate a little bit of extra attention.
Yeah.
For sure. And I think it's my love of insects that makes our colony the most successful colony in all of California. That's not true. Don't quote me on that.
I mean, it could possibly
be.
well be. And what do you do then with these specimens that you create?
So the skeleton will go in a box. If it's particularly greasy, sometimes like badgers or cetacea, any sort of marine mammal, is going to have really greasy bones. And we soak them in an ammonia solution to kind of degrease, and then we can pick off any remaining flesh that the beetles didn't get. Then we dry them, put them in a box next to the skin. And those all get a catalog number. Essential measurements and weight have been taken. Ideally, a tissue sample has been taken, and then it goes into our collection. And it gets databased, and that goes on VertNet, and it's accessible to the rest of the world, as long as I'm on top of my job.
Yes. Databasing can be a very time-consuming job, and pushing the data into open biodiversity databases is also a bit of a challenge sometimes.
Yes.
But these data are really important, and what could they be used for example?
Any number of things. So some of our specimens have been used to gauge pollution at a certain time. Mm-hmm. So if you take pelicans from 1930, 1940, 1950, and so on, you can do certain tests on their feathers, on the study skins, to identify what sort of pollutants were in the air at the time. We have mammal specimens that often are described as new species solely based on their specimen data, because they do, you can do measurements of molars and penis bones and all sorts of things that identify individual species. So basically each specimen is kind of this empty book for questions for anybody to ask at any point in time. So some of the questions that these specimens might answer might not even be on our radar.
Yeah.
But it's our job to preserve and maintain these collections so that when the time comes for those questions, we're ready to track change over time, to track differences and fluctuations based on locations or time, any of that. They can answer all sorts of things.
It's our responsibility to make sure we're passing these on to the next generations. And exactly as you say, we must be ready for when these questions arise.
And we must be training other people as well. And I'm very lucky, as are you, to have been trained by classic curators and collection managers who were taught by their mentors. And these practices are not things found in books.
No.
These are things that you're taught when you're interning or, working.
Hands-on work.
Yes.
As you say, experiential learning and practical, because there's a intuition you get. You grow an intuition of how to do things, and then the puzzle pieces just fit together.
Yes, and without that maintenance of these museum collections, without the accumulation of that data, we can completely destroy these collections, right? The same flesh-eating beetles that eat the flesh off my bones can get in and ruin my collection.
Yes.
So they need monitoring, they need acquisition, they need constant attention. They aren't just these static, dead things that collect dust.
Yeah. They're the original biodiversity data infrastructure. They provide information for our natural resources, our biodiversity.
Yes, and for people who do work in Borneo, for people who do work in South America, these tropical climates that you can't necessarily collect as much anymore, especially when it comes to birds and mammals, but you want to do genetic testing, you reach out to a museum and you find a collection from that area, and you can do all sorts of tests to get the data that you're looking for. So you can do non-invasive survey techniques.
Yeah, the possibilities with museum collections, as you've just described, are truly countless. There are so many ways in which we can do research.
Yes, and there's a lot of genetic work that's happening, and I think that that's great. And I also believe that at the same time, we need to continue to do field work. We need to continue to build these collections, these databases. We need to continue to look at the environment around us and ask questions and try and read the environment instead of just trying to look at certain data and then run analyses without doing on-the-ground work. I think the combination of the two is a dovetail that we need to maintain.
Yeah, we were talking about this with Martha, because she uses, of course, remote sensing techniques, but she's really on a mission.
Absolutely, and I think that's what's so inspiring about Martha, is there are not many remote sensing people that I know that are really willing to get their boots dirty.
She's the first I've met.
And I think it's worth noting, my PhD work was done in Hong Kong, and postdoc was done on Chinese pangolin, and trying to experiment with these novel techniques on detection methods. There was very little known about pangolins in Hong Kong, and I had to pretty much start from scratch and go on these denuded hillsides and unpathed forests to try and identify what a pangolin burrow looked like and where these pangolins might be, and what an ideal pangolin habitat might look like. And this took about 6 years, and we were only able to get, minimal data, but compared to the zero data that was there before, it's actually quite monumental. And I think that there is this really great intersection of natural history collections, field work, reading environments, and then also being able to work with students identifying these specimens in the collection and then going out into the field and being able to see how they live and what their life history is. Because really, when people hear natural history, they might think dead things, but really, natural history is the natural history of everything around us.
Yeah.
How it lives, how it exists, how it coexists. It's not a dusty old museum, right? We're really bad. And I think other museum people agree that we're really bad at self-promoting.
Yeah.
We're really bad at getting the information out there that we have these collections and the importance of these collections. We're really good at saying we have a new dinosaur. We're really good at that. Come to our gift shop.
Yes.
But what about what happens behind the scenes? And that, I think, is where the juice is. That's, I think people can get excited about that if we can communicate it.
We're both museum scientists, so I think we've definitely united on this topic.
Absolutely.
Of course, Anna, no journey is without its obstacles. What are some of the key challenges you've faced during your work?
Oof. That's such a complicated question. The whole thing. I think being a woman in science has its own complications. One of my first trips into the field, I found out, was only because I was pretty and had big blonde curly hair.
Okay.
And that was really disappointing because I thought it was my work that brought me into the field in Ecuador to do incredibly amazing canopy fogging. So I think being a woman in science has its own challenges. And I also think that being a person who gets so excited about every little thing has its own challenges as well. I wouldn't consider myself like a competitive scientist, but I'm incredibly passionate and excited about what I do, and so it's kind of a constant fight to figure out how to, where the jobs are and how to make it work and keep believing that this is the real path.
Yes. Yeah.
That I don't just belong at a post office or a grocery store.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely can relate. And I think everyone in our field really suffers with this question and we have a sort of depression because of the nature of our research as it is, and the fact that we are in a biodiversity crisis and things. And at the same time, there's such few jobs for people who are critically going to find solutions or understand the problem further. We're stuck in a bit of between a rock and a hard place sometimes.
Even collaboration can be difficult.
Yeah.
And I think that we might be coming into a new era of collaboration where people are less selfish about their work, or they have less of an ego about sharing what they're doing. And I think that's great because I think that's how real work gets done.
Yeah.
I think one of the important things is to identify strengths early on and obviously push yourself to learn new things, but also kind of identify realistic limitations and boundaries. And during my PhD, I think a lot of us are faced with these things that, you know, we're just not very good at. And it can be really hard to watch someone who sits next to you really thrive on the thing that you really struggle with.
Yeah.
But I think that also fosters ideas and feelings of collaboration, because I'm never going to be great at R, statistical software, and I can try, and it's just a language that I really struggle with, and I know that there are people that really thrive with that.
Yeah, I think we should be specialised in towards things that are our strengths, and of course we should have an understanding of statistical methods, but you know, the level of coding and things required, that takes up so much time away from the thing that you actually could go further towards and get more detail from. Yeah, I want to make a comment about what you said about if we came together and did more collaborative research. I was in a business program in Sweden, and one of the questions, and it was full of academics with ideas to then commercialise and potentially turn into a business of some kind. A woman was presenting who was previously an academic from the medical sciences, and she'd created a product. And one of the questions, what are the differences of working styles from working in a lab group versus now working in your company that you've formed?
Wow.
And she said, we come together as a team with our strengths to solve one problem, not split the problem up and sort of try and work on every element of it independently. As you've just said, we have strengths in different areas, and teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Absolutely.
And I wonder how it is that academia became this way.
I think it used to be that people would take a lot of pride and notoriety in naming new things or discovering new things. And again, since we are in this biodiversity crisis, it's not necessarily about describing new species. It's not about like being this avid explorer. It's really about how we can merge our data meaningfully.
Yeah, for the greater knowledge and the greater good.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I think that some of the colleagues we know in academia are very collaborative, and it's very inspiring to see that.
Yeah, very inspiring.
And I think that hopefully that's kind of where we're headed. We've got to share what we're doing.
Yes. Looking ahead, what are your thoughts on the future of biodiversity science? What gives you hope, and what should we be paying attention to?
I think what we just mentioned was all kind of very leading up to this question, kind of perfectly so. I'm hopeful of better science communication and more scientific collaborations. I'm hoping that, frankly, you and I can find our foothold in this system where our skill sets are valued as equally as those that are really good at art. And so I'm looking forward to valuing science communication more and thriving in that environment.
I'm really excited for that too. You're an excellent communicator, Anna, and you just draw people in and keep people engaged. And thank you so much for all your hard work and spreading education and knowledge as far and wide with your enthusiasm and knowledge. Yeah.
Well, Fez, it's people like you that keep me going as well. We all need supportive friends. Women need to support other women. And
definitely.
I really appreciate you taking the time to interview me with a cluster of people that I greatly look up to, and for you being so wonderfully ambitious and inspiring.
Thank you,
and
Anna.
thinking outside of the box for real. Like you're really making moves that I think are going to impact our field in the long term.
Thank you. That's really nice to hear. Thank
Yeah,
you.
absolutely. Thank you.
That keeps me going too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Women supporting women. Here it is. Well, thank you very much, Anna, for joining me today on the Biodiversity Impact podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's been a lovely, sweaty afternoon with you.
It's been a sweaty delight. Thank you. I really hope you found today's conversation interesting, inspiring, and insightful. If you like the podcast, please do subscribe on Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube, or any other place you get your podcasts. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one.